So once again, welcome to this session. I don't know whether you can hear me. Can you hear me? Maybe you can confirm, once you can confirm that you can hear me, maybe on the chat, so that we can start off the session. Just check this session. I don't know whether you can hear me. Can you hear me? Maybe you can confirm. Good. So you can see that you can hear me. That is nice. Good. Then we can jump onto it. So today is the final session with regards to our live sessions for AWS Academic Cloud Foundations. And it has been quite a good journey over the last 5 or so weeks, going through the labs within the session, and also you going through the content, which I've seen a lot of you have already done that. So over the weekend, we looked at lab 4 and 5. Basically, lab 4 is actually about working with what we call Amazon EBS, Elastic Block Storage. And then also we looked at how you can build a database server. To make this easier for me, I think I'll go to student view. So that as we head on to the final lab session, you can be able to get this up. So let me take you up to the final lab, just down here. So the final lab which is lab 6, is about to scale and load balance your architecture. So there's what's called ELB, there's Elastic Load Balancing. You should have already looked at this. Is something called CloudWatch, and something very interesting, which is the Amazon EC2 auto scaling. So those are part of the videos the instructor videos that are there. But today we are looking at now the lab and auto scaling and monitoring, which is very key because at some case, we'd actually want to deliver and ensure availability of our products and services, which we have deployed on the cloud to as many users as possible. And AWS has already made sure that this is possible through what we can, by creating multiple instances, ensuring we can automatically create EC2 instances and maybe even scale down according to demand, and also check on using CloudWatch, just check how the performance of your instances as they scale as per the requests. So again, today is all about scale and load balance architecture. So these are versions 4.66 of the lab, and this ELB, which is the Elastic Load Balancing and Auto Scaling services, which help us to basically automatically scale our infrastructure, which is basically what we've already deployed on the AWS cloud. So always remember that there's some difference between what we call Elastic Load Balancing and Auto Scaling. So let me just start the lab so that even as I explain, it can be still, the resources can be provisioned for me. So where are we? So as I was saying, there's a difference between Elastic Load Balancing and auto scaling. So what basically Elastic Load Balancing is, it is the automatic distribution of all the incoming application traffic across the multiple EC2 instances. So it helps with regards to fault tolerance, ensuring that that even if one of the EC2 instances or maybe one of the applications has gone down, you can still get to access. You can actually have the amount of what we call the load balancing capacity to route the application traffic. So application traffic can be routed according to the availability of the instances, and also the load that is there on each instance. So instances that are more free or lesser load can receive more traffic rather than those EC2 instances which are operating at maximum capacity. Then we have auto-scaling. So auto-scaling is basically all about ensuring application availability. So the first one in ELB is all about fault tolerance. This one is all about availability and ensuring that you can scale your EC2 capacity out, scale out, or scale in according to the conditions that you've already defined. So you can use the auto-scaling to help ensure that you are running the desired number of EC2 instances. It really also helps you with your cloud spend, and also ensures that during times when this demand is high, to maintain performance and also decrease capacity during, and also to ensure that the capacity when there's less demand is also reduced or scaled in, reduce some of the costs, as I already mentioned about your cloud spend. Then you have auto-scaling. Auto-scaling basically is well suited for applications that have a stable demand patterns or experience some variability in usage. So that is where auto-scaling really helps you. So during this lab, which is going to last about 30 minutes, you're going to be able to create an Amazon machine image from a running instance. And then we'll be able to create a load balancer. Then you'll be able to do a launch configuration and an auto-scaling group. Then you'll be able to automatically scale new instances within a private subnet. And then you'll be able to create some Amazon CloudWatch alarms to monitor the performance of our infrastructure. So you're going to be taking advantage of some 3 services. You're going to use the EC2 service. So going to use the ELB service, as well as the auto-scaling service, and also going to look at how you can now use the Amazon CloudWatch. So this is how it will look like. You can just do this. It's going to really work. Okay. So this is the initial state. This is where we start. So we're going to have, within the region, you're going to have 2 availability zones, availability zone A and availability zone B. And within each availability zone, you're going to have a public subnet and a private subnet. So the public subnet in zone A will be public subnet 1, and the private subnet in zone A will be private subnet 1. As you can see, the addresses are going to be running from 10.0.0.0 /24, that is a subnet. Then you're going to have the private subnet having 10.0.1.0 for availability zone A. When you go to availability zone B, you're going to have 10.0.2.0/24. Public subnet 1 will be running the NAT gateway. And in private subnet 1, you're going to be having the security group, and which within this security group, you're going to be having the RDS, that is the relational database service, and having the primary database. Remember, we did this during the last lab. Then in private subnet 2, you're going to have the secondary RDS, that is the RDS database. And this one is going to be running under the 10.0.3.0/24, as you can see here. Then you're going to have the web server. This is where you're starting with. And then we're going to have the public subnet running on 10.0.2.0/24. The final state we expect, which is going to look pretty kind of advanced, is you're going to have the 2 availability zones still. And then you can see what you're introducing. You still have the internet gateway. We are now introducing an application load balancer within its own security group, which is going to balance some loads. Also going to have the web server, the web instance running within the private subnet. So you're going to have the web instance, you're going to have an auto-scaling group. You can see the auto-scaling group is within this web instance. Then you are going to have the RDS primary and the RDS database primary and the secondary databases also being part of the load balance. So I can see my lab, I think, is ready, if I'm not wrong. So I'll click on AWS. I don't know if there's any one of us who is also doing it. I don't know that Wednesday you're also doing it, but you can tell me, then I'll arrange. I'll have to arrange. Really love it this way. I usually prefer it on this side, and I prefer this one on this side. Okay, so it is my console. So I can switch to the new experience, but I'll not do that right now. So let us get onto the grip of things. So we arrange. So create an AMI for auto scaling. So in this task, we create an AMI from the existing web server 1. This will save the contents. We save the content that the instance can be launched with identical content. Yeah, sure. So in the AWS services menu, here it is, click on EC2. So I'll search EC2. Here it is. Also kindly share with me if I'm not clear. Something. I believe the meeting ID is clear. I don't think there's an issue. Let me check. Is there somebody who wanted to join? I hope you can share. I hope the meeting ID is the same as the one that I've shared. So if it is not having an issue, let me just check on the chat. My screen is showing login with Google. Login with Google. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry about that. I had not shared my whole screen. Are you seeing it now better? Sorry, I think when I decided to rearrange and I had not shared my whole screen, I was having an issue. Today I decided to use my Windows so that because I saw a majority of you required Windows or are Windows users, so I decided to get onto my Windows. Okay, thank you, Rogers. I believe it's now clear. Thank you also, Wensi, for notifying me. Maybe I did not say that, but I hope it's now clear. We're told to go to under instances. So you need to first confirm that the web server 1 instance is running. Yeah, I think I had maximized a lot. So we need to confirm that web server 1 is displaying that 2 of 2 checks passed. You can see it is here, is done. So it is. I select it. I've already selected it. under the actions menu, I'll go to images and templates. Then I'll go to create an image. So don't forget that you have to go to actions. You go to images and templates. Then you go to create image. So I'll enter the image name, which is web server AMI, web server Amazon machine image. Then I can say the lab AMI for web server. Then I'll go to create. So I don't think I'll do anything else. I'll do create image. Sorry about that. Something was, so you can see the ID, the AMI ID has been created. It is here. See it at the top here. With the confirmation banner. Then you'll use this AMI when you're going to go to the auto scaling later in the lab. So the next thing is you're going to use the image later on. So let's create a load balance. So the next task, so we've already done the Amazon machine image. So I'm going to now create the load balancer. So in the left, I go to target groups. So you can see you have instances, images, EBS, network and security. Then under load balancing, you can see these target groups. So basically what target groups basically do is actually help you define where you're going to send traffic that comes into the load balancer. And also the load balancer can send traffic to multiple target groups based upon the URL. So this is something that you also need to remember based upon the URL of what you call the incoming request. Because you should always remember that requests that come from mobile apps, you can set them to go to different set of servers, and then our web application can use only one target. So we'll go to this again, do this. So that's what target groups basically tell you where do you want to take it. So you can see right now we don't have any target groups. So we're going to choose the target type, which is going to instances. Target group. And also you can also change it. And also you can also use the target groups for Lambda functions. So you can use to facilitate any kind of routing to different, and also it is accessible to only application load balancers. And then the application, you can also create an application load balancer. So you're going to now deal with instances because that is what you're dealing with right now. So you'd been given a target name, it's just that my my instructions were trying to go away, but it's going to load right now. I don't know, is there any issue with the meeting ID really? Somebody can just check on the Zoom meeting ID, and I'm sure it's working. I'm really sure it's working. Because so personally it is loading. So there's no issue with the meeting ID. Just have that. So I can confirm that it is working. So let me just get back to the instructions. So let us go down there. So target type, target group name is lab group. Lab group, as you can see it here. Then select lab VPC. So I'll select lab VPC there. Then choose next. Then the register targets screens appears. Then we can be able to review the settings and create a target group. So you do not have any web application inside, so you can skip this step. So we'll skip this step first. And then, so we'll skip that. Review settings and choose create target group. So I'll just create the target group. So it has been created automatically, and you can see it is here. Then I'll go to load balances. Still under here. You can see now after we created a target group where what the traffic will go to, where the traffic will go to the target group. I will go to now to be able to create a load balance. Okay, so in the left navigation pane, I'll click load balancer. I've already done that. At the top, I'll click on create load balancer. Already done that. So there are different types that are appeared. You can see you can have an application load balancer, a network load balancer, a gateway load balancer, and even the classic load balancer. That was redacted, so that was replaced by these three main types of balancers. So as you can see, all those types of balancers have been explained and what they actually really do. But for the focus of this lab, we are focusing on the application load balancer. So we're going to click on create. Then here we get onto this. So you can see you can just also check on whatever is here. But remember that the ALB always lands on the USI model. It actually operates at layer 7, which is where requests are, and also about routing traffic to the targets, EC2 instances, the containers, IP addresses, based on the content of the request. So under load balancer name, we are going to call it lab ELB. Lab ELB. Please ensure you call it the same way. You're going to scroll down up until the what we call the network mapping section. And then for VPC, you're going to use the VPC. Already learned about VPC. You're going to use the lab VPC. Then we are going to choose the first displayed availability zone, which is US East 1A. And then once you are there, you're going to see public subnet 1. You're going to use the public subnet. Remember, you are creating that structure that we had. So we're going to use the public subnet because that is where you're going to look at the load balancer coming through. Then I'll choose the second availability zone, and I'll still use the public subnet 2, as you can see here. So I should have having two subnets selected, which is the public subnet 1 and the public subnet 2. Wency, do you anyone anyone having an issue with audio? Anyone having an issue with audio? Anyone? If you don't have an issue with audio, you can tell me. Just confirm. Jump into live. So I hope you're all hearing me well. Good. I think I can confirm under YouTube I can audible, so can go on. So in the security group section, we're going to now, we've already finished with the network mapping. We've already used the lab VPC and we were selected under the first region, the first availability zone, which is US East 1A, using the public subnet 1. And under the second availability zone, which is US East 1B, you're going to use public subnet 2. And you can see the IPv4 settings will be assigned by AWS themselves. So in the security group section, you're going to now be able to select the security groups. And remember, the security groups helps get to know what can run and what is not available, and actually enhances to ensure the type of traffic that can be done. So I'll select, then I'll choose the web security group. Let me see if I can see it here. I can see it, but I cannot select it. So it is already selected, so it is here. I'll click the X, I'll remove the default. Then it should be only web security that appears. That was already done. So on step 20, for the listener HTTP 80 row, set the default action to forward to the lab group. So you can see this one, the listener for HTTP 80. So basically this is what it says. A listener is a process that checks for connection requests using the protocol and the port you configure. Traffic received by the listener is then routed as per my specification. And then I can specify multiple roles and multiple certificates per listener after the load balancer has been created. So that is what listener really does. Now lab group. I'll scroll to the bottom and choose. So I'll not follow up on add-on services. I'll not deal with tags. Just look, this is a summary. And then I'll click on create. Then I'll choose the view load balancer. will show a state of provisioning. So you can see it is in a provisioning state to be provisioned. So we don't need to wait for it to finish. We can just go on. So we are going to create a launch configuration in an auto-scaling group under task 3. So in this task, we're going to create a launch configuration. So what we basically is that for the auto-scaling, remember you can scale in and scale out. So it is going to be the template. The launch configuration helps you to know that it is going to special information for the instances, such as the instance type, the key pair, the security group, the disk, all those. So in the left navigation, I'll click on launch configurations. So you can see under auto scaling, you have launch configurations. I'll be sure that there's no current launch configurations. Then I'll be able to create a launch configuration. So I'm not sure whether there's anyone following, but still this still also goes to be available over YouTube, and you can check it out. So let me just click on create launch configuration. Then configure these settings. I'll be able to use the launch configuration name is lab config. And then the AMI that I'm going to be using is going to be the web server AMI. It's going to, when I click, I'll be able to select it. And remember, this is the AMI that we had created that is going to be loaded. So you can see I'll choose the web server AMI. And then on the instance type, I'll obviously now choose as per the specification of the lab is I'll choose to T3 micro. Should be up, should usually at the top. Let me just scroll down. I see this T3 micro. That micro. Note that if you have launched the lab in the US East 1 region, so I'll check where is my region, is US East 1. Select the T2 to find the region. I'll look at the upper right. So it is, I'll use T2.micro. So for us, I'm in the other region. I'm in the US East 1. So I'll use T2.micro or T3. Then I'll click on choose. Okay. Then additional configuration under monitoring, select under monitoring. I'll select enable EC2 detailed monitoring within. Remember, there's a time we were disabling this in the lab to make the lab run faster. But remember, this time you are now ticking under monitoring and ensuring that will happen. So this, when you actually tick enable EC2 as detailed monitoring within CloudWorks, means that autoscaling will be able to react quickly to any kind of change in terms of the utilizations. It's going to be more responsive than it currently would be without that. Then under security groups, you configure that use the web security. So I'll select an existing, then I'll use the web security group. Under key pair, say choose an existing invoke key. Then I'll obviously acknowledge, and then I'll now create the launch configuration. So actions, I'll be able to create an auto-scaling. I'm on step 28. I'll create an auto-scaling group. Remember that once you've already now created the launch configuration, we now have to have the auto-scaling group. So let that load. Kindly confirm that you can hear me. Kindly confirm. I can personally see that my audio is working. Kindly confirm that you can hear me. You can see that I can hear that from my YouTube. I can personally see that my audio is working. So once you can just check your connection, you might be the one having issues with your audio or something. That's kindly confirm that you can hear. You can see that I can hear that from my YouTube. Okay, but I believe Laban, you can hear me, and Rogers. Kindly confirm that, please, so that I don't go on and not getting this. Thank you, Laban. Okay, so let's go on. So right now, I've already said we have just done the launch configuration. It's basically a template. It is a template which is going to be used to run or actually create new instances as per the demand. So once I create auto-scaling group, I'll get to lab auto-scaling group here. You can see it is here. Then I'll just go directly to, you can see right now you're using the lab configuration. Remember, you're using the launch configuration that we've just used. We've just created right now. Remember that this one was the lab configuration. You can see it here. That is the launch configuration that we're using. And then we are going to go down to next. You see under 30, 31. On the network page, I'll go to configure, and then I'll forget the network should be lab VPC. You see, it's usually under default, so I'll just have to take it to the lab VPC that we have. So I can ignore any message if there's any under no public IP address. Then I'll select private subnet 1 and private subnet 2. That is private subnet 1. Remember, we finished on that, so I'll just use private subnet 1, also private subnet 2. Remember the other time we were dealing with the public subnet when we were dealing with the load balancer. Yes, you can see under the load balancer, you are actually dealing with the public subnets. So this is where the interesting part is coming. This is where I've been waiting to get to. So in the load balancing optional pane, load balancing optional, I'll go to next. Here, I'll say attach to an existing load balancer. Then choose from your existing load balancer target groups. And you can see there is the lab group. See it is here, our target groups. Would not have appeared if we had not created it. Then the additional settings, optional pane, we're going to enable group metrics collection within Google CloudWatch, which are actually going to capture the metrics basically at 1 minute intervals and allow auto scaling to obviously to also react quickly to change usage patterns. So it works the same way as how we're actually enabling detailed monitoring under CloudWatch for the load balancing. So under group size, you're going to next. So under group size, you're going to say the desired capacity is 2. So this is actually going to really help you get to know how auto scaling is working. So that is my desired cap might be within the limit range. So I can, what basically that means is I cannot say my desired capacity is 5, but my minimum capacity is 1 and my maximum capacity is 3. My desired capacity is well beyond the range of the minimum and the maximum. So this is what this statement really means. So we're going to have the minimum capacity as 2 and the maximum capacity as 6. So basically these are actually the number of maybe instances or applications that can be spawned or actually launched to keep up with demands. So you can see automatically add or remove instances, always keeping them between 2 and 6. Under scaling policies, choose target tracking scaling policy. Lab policy name, I'll actually call it lab scaling policy. So you can see some bit of differences from the lab. This time it's called lab policy name, but it's called scaling policy name. So metric type is our CPU utilization. And the target value should be actually 60. So when CPU utilization goes above 60, so you can see that should actually maintain the CPU utilization to be at around 60, and auto scaling will automatically add or remove to keep the metric at that level or close to that. So I'll go to next. So I'm going to note enable this instance scaling protection. So here you use the default settings. I'll click on next. So in terms of tags, we're going to add a tag, call it name. The key value will be the name, and the value will be lab instance. And as I've already told you, as per the lab, is actually really good practice to always add tags so that you can be able to understand what you're doing. Review the details. So actually reviewing. So you can see this is what we did in step 1, this is what we did in step 2, this is what we did in step 3, this is what we did in step 4. We added grouping size and scaling policy. Then you usually use the target tracking scaling. We didn't enable scaling protection. We didn't do any notifications. I can remove it. And then so auto scaling will initially show an instance count of 0, but instances will be learned to read the desired count of 2 instances. So I'll create. Yeah, what have I done? Okay, it is. So if there's any error, I'm told to retry, but it's not seeing any error so far. You can see here it is. It has been created successfully. The book matrix collection is also enabled. So we'll have to now verify, because all that we've done, we actually have to verify that load balancing is working, and also we need to also test the auto scaling feature. So that you can actually completely say we are actually done with the lab. So this was quite a tricky lab. So we'd have to start by testing. You're going to verify that load balancing is working. So in the left, I'll click on instances. I should be able to see some two new instances named lab instance. So let's check on that. You can see auto scaling has created the two instances, and they're already created and running. So you'll be able to check if they are passing. You can see their health check. They're still under initializing. So I can decide to refresh it and just check again. And you can see one of the instances, or there are none of them, still initializing. And you can go on. So I'll have to wait. The left choose the target groups under load balancing. And then I'll choose lab group. In the targets tab, so to go to the targets tab, you can see that. You can see there it is. Wait until the status of both instances is healthy. You can see they are all healthy. And the load balancer is sent traffic to that instance. You can now check the auto scaling group via the load balancer. The left, I'll go to load balancers. So these are very quite advanced, but it's very important to get to understand this. So I'll copy the DNS name of the load balancer. So I'll need to remove a record, this part. So I only need to copy this. Open a new browser tab, and I'll paste it. So I should be able to check that once it loads, the load balancer has received the request and sent it to one of the two instances, and also passed back the result. And you can see this pass basically it. You can see this is an instance, and you can see the lab, the load balancer DNS, and it has been able to pass the request on to an EC2 instances and got a result back. So allow me to take this call a bit. So sorry about that. I was on a call, but I'm back. So where were we? We were actually on now. We have already tested our our load balancer, and we have confirmed that it is passing traffic onto the EC2 instances and also getting replies or responses back. Now we're going to now test auto scaling. Can it really scale in? I mean, scale out and scale in. So remember that we created and we said that the desired is 2, and we said we can run between 2 and 6. So currently you already know that we have 2 instances because the minimum size is 2. And the group is currently not under any kind of load. And you can see the current CPU load is obviously 0%. We'll now increase the load to post auto scaling to add additional instances. So I'll go to the AWS management console. It is this, but I'll not close that. Then I'll click on CloudWatch service. So let's wait on it to load. So there it is. So it's loading. So under alarms, I'll go to all alarms for CloudWatch. CloudWatch is a very powerful service with regards to monitoring. It can really help you. So I'll be able to see 2 alarms will be displayed. These were created automatically with auto scaling. They will automatically keep the average load close to 60. We're also trying to we're also staying within the limitation of having 2 to 6. So also being told to follow these steps only if you do not see the alarms in 60 seconds. So I've seen that. So I don't need to do this. So click OK. Click the OK alarm. So this one, just alarm high in its name. Which indicates that the alarm has not been triggered. It will add instances in the average CPU. The chart should show very low CPU levels at the moment. So I'll go to load test. So I'll go to the CloudWatch console. So some CPU load has been created. You can see under the load test. You're going to see whether the alarm high will have been triggered. Once we should not see OK. So I'll refresh that. So for more than 3 minutes, so let's see. So once it crosses the 60% for more than 3 minutes, it will trigger the auto scaling to add additional instance. So we'll wait until the alarm instant from OK to in alarm state, and you should be able to see. So let's go to refresh and see whether it's going to get to in alarm state. It's still under OK. Let's wait again. Oh, this one is still okay. Whenever our 3 minutes are over, let's check. Still under okay. Is not our alarms not triggering. Let's wait until I think it's still waiting. So I'm waiting for it to get to in alarm state. They're still okay. Don't know how many minutes we need to give it. So let me refresh again. Still okay. What did you put for alarm high? Ratio greater than 60 for 3 data points within 3 minutes. So I can see it started at 37. It's just finished. So yeah, good. It has now gotten to in alarm. You can see that. You see it is now in alarm state. It is the alarm has been triggered, and we are expecting that some more instances will be created to ensure that the CPU load is basically kept to around 60% and not the 100 that it is right now. So right now we can now comfortably go to instances under EC2 and see whether our load balancing is, our auto scaling is working. Let's hope that we're going to see more instances that have been automatically created through our auto scaling configuration. So you go to instances. Then let's see whether you're going to see way more. Do you see what has happened? We only had 2 instances, 2 lab instances. But do you see what has happened? 2 more lab instances have been created. And I think they are kind of initializing, if I'm not wrong. You can see this is initializing. This one is still initializing, meaning that they have been created by our auto-scaling. So you can see more than 2. The new instances are created by the auto-scaling in response to the alarm. So terminate web server 1. It says that was used to create the MI, but it is no longer needed. So I'll select web server 1. And I'll go to actions. I'll go to instance state, and then I'll terminate the instance. Then I'll terminate it as per the lab. So you can currently see that it has been terminated. You can see web server 1 is under the terminated status. And then, wow, I thought there was something else after that. So basically, we have already completed the lab. So the reason why we terminated web server 1 is we wouldn't want to incur some costs of running web server 1, yet we do not need it, yet we do not require it because we've already created the configuration that was used, the Amazon machine image that was used as a template for the lab instances. And you can see that we already have that. And I don't know if it's going to scale in. We do the opposite. So it is under a current high CPU load. This is for RPS. Yeah, so you see, rather than initializing, I can refresh. I think by now they should already be up. You can see they are all up. This one you can see this has been terminated. So it's already done. So at the end, I think I've already done. I don't know whether there's any one of us, I know I was actually quite fast, who was able to do this lab together with me, or maybe they've already done it. So currently I'll end the lab. And I'll obviously log out. I'll close this. So I'll leave my student view and I'll just check on whether there's any one of us who has successfully done lab 6. Anyone? Let me see. Lab 5. The lab 6. Lab 6. Lab time. Planners. this is me. So carefully. This one is should be under that. Go to lab 6. I check myself. So I can see, I can be able to see, I was able to do that. I started the lab at 1:46. At 12, and I was actually finished up, and I finished the lab operation. So you can see, I can be able to just see what everyone is doing. Just to that, let me check on if there's anyone apart from myself. Okay, we entered, but there's nothing much you've done, really. Who else is on the call? You just check yours. I don't know whether you can check Wednesday and Laban. Check yours. So I can see there's nothing you've done. But not yet. Well, Rogers. There is this one. Yeah, it's not. So most of you haven't done, but I don't know whether you've done lab 5. Can check. I'm sure Willie should have already done it. I can see this date. Once I see lab sessions, I know you've already done some. So I can see you've already done it quite a number of times. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is very good. It's very good. Don't know whether Wednesday has done something on that. Not yet. So please kindly do those labs. They're going to really help you. Anyways, again, I'll take you through Learner Lab, which is very important. You can still use Learner Labs for your learning, for your undirected learning. So everyone has a budget of $100 and you still have it up until the end of the course. So you can use your $100 worth of AWS credits to do some planning in the AWS Academy Learner Lab. When I go to my student view, there's a time I had an issue with the Ubuntu with regards to the keys. but we'll try to look at the Amazon machine image. I'll try to do something there, and you can see maybe what happens there. But this is the work, that is the work of Academy, AWS Academy Lab. If there's anyone who is not available or maybe not added, has not been added to the Learner Lab foundational services or foundations, kindly request to be added so that you can take part in this kind of undirected learning. So I think with that, I'll call it a session. It's been quite a long day. I think some of us have also dropped off because of one issue or another. So kindly try to use these resources the way they fit. And if you have any challenges or any service that would like us to look at in more detail before we close the session or we close this course, I mean, the first cohort, how I do ask that you kindly ask me and I'll try my best to do it. And if maybe it's beyond my scope, I'll get someone to take you through that. So that said, I think we can say thank you so much for those who are watching on YouTube. Kindly make sure you practice. You can only get better at these things when you practice a lot, and not just once, not just twice. You can even practice 1,000 times. You're welcome, Wensi, and all of you for joining, because I couldn't have done this without you. So thank you, Wensi, Laban, Rogers in absentia. I think we also had William. So you can still review the YouTube video and also look at that. So you can see I've already started my lab, and I can see my green AWS. I just want to do some bonus work and see if it is showing me credentials invalid in the way I really wanted to show something here. I think I need to log out first. Yeah, I'm logged out. Then I think I can click it. I wanted to show you how to create some instance and even how you can run a lab. You can even do a lab that you've already done, but you do it outside of the lab because it is more persistent under the AWS Learner Lab. So I just want to see whether I'll be able to create an Amazon machine image and I'll be able to log on to it. You remember the last time I was on EC2, and I think I'm still bearing some costs with regards to my budget. You've seen I'm on the $1.1. So I need to terminate instances that I'm not using. So you can see like this one, I need to terminate that one, I need to terminate. I need to really terminate them. You can see they are actually costing me. Terminate instance. Instance 5E may not be terminated. So I think I need to change the termination protection, and then I disable it. Then I think I can now terminate. This one also doesn't have that. I think I can now terminate these two instances. Okay, the Windows server is up. I don't know if I can be able to log on to it, but let me just delete this first. Good. So let's see whether if we have this, how can we connect to our Windows server? see whether this will work to the Windows server. Let's see whether it's going to load. Wow, it's loading. I'm being logged on to my Windows server on EC2. It's already 6 p.m. UTC, that is 9 p.m. As it's loading. This is my Windows server. So my network is not that fast. So you might see, and actually RDP has a lot of toll on the bandwidth. You can see I can be able to see. So I've been able to launch that. I can minimize that. I'll come back to it later on, or I can be able to end it. I want to see that I can go and get an Amazon machine image. I really want to maybe as we close this class, maybe I'll get to maybe take you through things such as system administration. We'll look at what you can look at next. But at that point in time, if you really want more of this or even something else, we can connect. And also, if you see this something that maybe some of your colleagues would want to learn about, kindly contact me and we can see. So we can launch an instance. Let's launch an AMI and see how it's going to work. So you've already logged on to our Windows server. You can see this one is the EC2 Windows server. So let's do an Amazon Linux AMI. Availability, we're going to use the T3 or T2 micro. Let's do the T2 micro. I think VPC, you can just leave it default. Let's just leave all these things default. Let's add the normal storage, which is fine. Add tags, we can, okay. Security group, you can just use the default one. So you can review and just launch it. So here it's being asked to choose. I can let me say. Do I have these shakes? This is the shakes one. Just go to view instances and check whether my AMI is pending. It's still loading. Oh, I didn't give it a name. Just call it AMI. With that, I can put it to it. You see that I can run some putty onto it. At that time, I had a lot of issues with the key pair. But I can see Windows has treated me nicely. You can just get out of this RDP. Just get out of this. So you can see it's running. Let's see whether we can connect to it. So I'm not seeing it load. It's still loading. Let's see. So you can say I can connect to that. Whether my instant connect will work. It's kind of loading. Which is a good thing. Let's say I can put it to it. Then we are putting to 30. And I think we used shapes. I don't know. I don't really even know what I was actually doing. I think this one is the one that is going to work. Under session. So let's get to really work. But still, you can try it out. For the Windows server, I can see it worked. So for my case, I can decide to terminate the Windows server because I don't need it. So I missed a bit. Sorry, I think I dropped off. So let me share my screen again. So I'm just finishing up this part so that we can close it, the session. I really don't know whether this sheets PPK is going to really help, but let's see. Going to time out. I'm also going to try it out later on by using the walk key or something of that sort. There's some kind of timeout. You can see. And maybe there's an issue with my network. Is it saying that it can't delete my Windows server? I don't know if there is termination protection. Let me go to settings. Yes, disabled. This one has been terminated. I don't know the reason. I think there's an issue with my AMI, but I'll terminate it. But I'll check on that. But the good thing is today we've already done something on the Windows server, which is very good. And I've learned also something on myself, on my case. Also try, you can even try to now do the launch and the auto scaling and the load balancers by yourself and look at that. So you always remember that this is your help guide and also with something with regards to your learner labs and the service restrictions and those that you can access and something you can't access. And also remember that regions, all in terms of the labs, they're restricted to US East 1 and US West 2. So always remember that. You can see always your budget, you can check. For example, currently I've already used $1.1 of my $100. And you can always check. And don't forget to always end the lab from here. Then it will actually ensure that everything has been terminated. So I think that is it from me. We might have a closing session, but what is required of you is to ensure that you do the knowledge checks, go through all your knowledge, your activities and your labs. Then you can be able to see at the end of it all, you're going to get a badge. Also, for those who successfully complete the exam, also going to have a certificate for it. So unless maybe there's any question, I think I'll leave it at that. For those on YouTube, kindly don't forget to also follow it up and also do the activities on your learning management system on the platform.